Okay, hey guys, this is Eva. I am the owner of Blooming Beats Kitchen, and today we're doing one of our Facebook Lives, and today is about keto paleo. So we're good. So you know how there's these people out there that just seem to never have an issue with weight, with energy. They're just like, it's easy, they can keep their weight on or weight off. And you know what I mean, right? And I wonder if you're one of those people. You can say so. I know I'm definitely not there, at least not all the time. So today we're gonna talk about keto with Mary Kay Irving, who's been here, who's an expert on keto paleo. She's been here a few times before, and we're gonna cover a few different topics. We're gonna cover keto and weight, which is gonna be an interesting one. We have never talked about it before. We're going to talk about ketogenic paleo and cancer, which is also an interesting one and a little bit controversial. And what was the last one? Keto and
stress management.
Oh, keto and stress management and self-care. And that was just a topic for me today.
And maybe we can throw in exogenous ketones.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Exogenous ketones is what we're going to talk about too. But before we get started, because we might be a little bit of controversial here today, I wanted to share with you kind of how I got into paleo. And it was, when we talk with you on the Facebook Live, it's easy because we have a community of people who get it. The people who come to Blooming Beats usually get it. They're familiar with paleo. They know what ancestral health means. They understand the logic behind why we try to go back to our roots and things like that. But there's like a lot of these people like Mary Kay are trying to go out there and shoot, where are you at, just on 9 News, right? Like going out there and trying to make a difference with other people who don't understand. And we were just talking about how hard it is, and I remembered how I got into this. So it's 2012, and I decided that I needed to go to CrossFit because I was training for a 100-mile run, and I didn't have any upper body strength, nothing, and there was just some, overtraining, and hi Emily, and I really wanted to get some strength in. And the first class that they had, they give you 3 intro classes. The first class was on nutrition. And the coach who was leading the nutrition class, the first thing he starts talking about is the paleo diet. I'm like, well, this is gonna be fun. And he starts telling us how we should stop eating healthy whole grains and start eating bacon. And I'm like, you're gonna be kidding me, right? So you're telling me that I should be eating bacon, I should not be eating healthy whole grains. You're crazy. I spent the entire hour arguing with him. I hated the guy. I'm sure he hated me as well, but I hated the guy. Nevertheless, I got home. I would never admit it to him, at least at the time. I got home and I started looking into this. And I'm like, I've tried it all. I'm running basically 70, 80, 90 miles a week, and I have a lot of weight issues. I'm the fittest that I have ever been, and I'm the least healthy I've ever been. So I get home, I'm researching this, and I was like, wow, this is like, things just started to make sense. And I came up on this whole 30 thing, and I'm like, this is actually making a lot of sense. And then I read that it starts with food. And so the point being, sometimes you tell people something that is a little controversial, they might hate it, and that's why we talk about controversial things here, but it makes the difference. If we just talk about things that you're gonna agree with, that you're gonna like, and you're gonna like us, then we might never make a difference. So
very true.
That makes a difference. So Mary Kay is here with me.
Hi everybody, glad to be back here.
She is amazing. So let's kick it off. So we have a few different topics. Which one do you want to talk about first? Keto and...
Well, just this controversial thing is kind of, I come from, I work currently now as an integrative health coach, educator, and specialist, kind of combining my background as a psychotherapist, where I help people with depression, anxiety, and trauma recovery. Went through my own health recovery from cancer as a cancer survivor, and ultimately ended up going back to take classes and train as a nutritionist, and combining all of that. So basically, I have this kind of integrative view, but from my history as a psychotherapist, we start with where the clients are, what they want.
Yeah.
And even if we see something that might be obvious, you don't necessarily throw it in their faces because, people are doing things in their own time.
Right.
So there's kind of living by example and role modeling, which
Yeah.
is one way to do things, or being really gentle and planting little seeds
Ooh.
until somebody's ready to hear it.
What's the thing you don't want to tell them? That's
But
what I
then
know.
there's the other piece, the other component of sometimes you just have to call it like it is, right?
Right.
And so that's how I feel about the whole paleo thing with eating lots of grains, as you say, 8 servings of grains, whatever the health pyramid used to be, the food pyramid, and eat no fat. And at the same time, the rates of obesity, chronic health conditions, diabetes, cancer, all kinds of things have just exploded. So really what they've been recommending is wrong. That is just not okay. And really just sometimes just calling things.
It's so crazy because I've heard this before. I didn't come up with this, but the American Heart Association is like the biggest mass murderer in the country. 'Cause
I know. When I finished reading Gary Taub's book, Why They Get Fat, he's the author of Good Calories, Bad Calories.
Yeah.
Where I first learned about this
the
making
history,
no sense.
the politics of it.
Politics, the whole history of it, but blew my mind. And when I first learned about it, I said, how are they getting away with this? Why aren't there lawsuits? Are they, and maybe that's why the government can't just own up to it and come out with it. Like
Hi, Mary Beth.
they start to just add and change things really slowly. Like they've more recently said it's okay to eat eggs. But it takes so long.
It's okay to eat eggs. Oh my goodness.
It takes so long for this information to come out to the public. Like I still have friends and clients that come to me and say, their cholesterol is high or something, and the doctor said they need to stop eating eggs.
Are you kidding me?
Like
Still?
Totally backwards. Still.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That has to change. And I remember talking about these controversies, how did this whole margarine, let's be scared of cholesterol, let's not eat bacon, let's talk about let's all eat margarine and seed oils and sunflower because that's better than lard, right? Like how it all came about. Wasn't that the 7-country study?
Yeah.
Except there was 24 countries in the study, and they took out the 7 that fit whatever they wanted to prove, and it's like, okay, here's the results, and it killed
They cherry-picked
so many,
the data. Yeah.
and it killed so many people. It's like you can't.
Right. They would have, I feel like the government there'd be massive lawsuits, and the government can't come out and say we were wrong because then it's going to happen.
Oh, that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. I remember, and that wasn't just here, right? Because as some people know, in case you can't tell from my accent, I wasn't born here, right? So I was born in the Czech Republic, and we had a little bit of a delay there because we had a communist Czechoslovakia, so the imperialist West, we didn't really care what was going on there. Not me personally, right? But this copying of the West didn't happen until 1990. So while y'all were dying here eating margarine,
you guys were healthy then.
we were somewhat protected. There was the only thing good about communists, right? But anyway, so we were talking. We were eating whatever my grandpa was growing in the garden, and somewhat, healthy and all. About 1992, 1993 is where the politics, where this whole thing of let's not eat butter, let's eat margarine, let's, the cornflakes thing, it just spread over there. And, the little grocery shops went out of business. We used to have fruits and vegetable store and butcher shop and this and that, and then you have the big box stores come in, which, I'm not talking about the politics of it, okay, because I'm all pro-capitalist and all that, but then, we started buying into, this is the way you should be eating, and I got, as a 13-year-old, I got very, very sick, and I ended up in a hospital. I was a healthy child. My hormones were so out of balance. I don't even know when I'm going to share this, but I'm going to anyway, so thanks for listening. Totally TMI, but I remember, my hormones being so out of whack. I got my first period and it lasted 3 months, and I ended up in a hospital because my hormones were so just horrible. I was filled with anxiety all the time. My hair was horrible, everything was horrible because all we were eating was cornflakes. Literally, that was the healthy breakfast, and we're eating it all day. And I was like, this is healthy stuff, right? So we should be eating it. And vegetable oils, they fry everything in vegetable oils, and vegetables were gone. And it wasn't even about the bread because we were kind of used to it, but it was about like it was horrible. So, anyway,
so many of us have these kinds of health stories, and you know what? I appreciate your vulnerability in sharing TMI, too much information. I mean, that's how we all learn from each other, and that's how we end up getting better. And I could share a similar story. When I was 8 or 9 years old, we thought I had my first period. As a little girl looking into the toilet bowl that was filled with blood, and I was like freaked out. And really, it was from hemorrhoids. It was from intestinal distress and being all messed up. And the doctors recommended that I eat more grains and more roughage, and it was probably all about gut health and intestinal permeability. I had anxiety and depression as a kid as well, so it's all related to what we've done to our food and our food supply and eating in an unnatural way. And so it was a blessing for me to learn about paleo and just getting back to eating real foods from the garden. I was lucky to grow up at a time when we ate from our garden as well, and we still ate butter until the mid-70s. Here is when we got all those crazy recommendations about low fat, and then obesity starts happening. So we know there's a connection between fat that we eat, or lack of it, adding sugar in, and then the obesity epidemic that we have. And I think the controversial piece that we were talking about is that people have a hard time talking about weight and weight loss, like thinking that should not be the focus of what we're talking about. And I totally understand that. We're not talking about shaming anybody, but I have clients that come to me, male and female, who are concerned about not understanding. They think they're eating healthy, but their weight is exploding. It's uncomfortable. Their clothes aren't fitting. It's painful to carry all that extra weight. It's stressful on their joints. It raises risks for cancer as well as heart disease. So it's absolutely something that needs to be addressed. And it's important to find out that balance so that it's not shaming about somebody's body, but it's about health and energy. And sometimes the conversation has to include being overweight and talking to that to people about that. It's like in the psychotherapy world, people often tiptoe around talking about depression, like suicide, or talking about sex life or money. And some of these things have to be brought out of the closet. And sometimes we need to talk to people about weight and losing weight, even if it's related to health, not about body shaming.
So first of all, is it possible to be slightly overweight and be healthy?
I think so.
Absolutely. Is it possible to be beautiful and to be fat?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So here's where we need to talk about, it's not about how you look. It's like I'm all about, I just kind of like going back, and this is like cleaning my own integrity with this. Like before I opened the restaurant, I was doing some health coaching, and I had about 4,000 people through like an online coaching program, whatever. And the focus, a lot of the focus was fat loss. And then I was going back, and a lot of it was like, I was like looking back at it, and like part of me is kind of ashamed of it, honestly. That's why it's like I don't promote it anymore, because I haven't had time to rewrite it, because my views on that have changed quite a bit, because it is not about, like, paleo can be very effective at fat loss, extremely effective, and we can tell you how that works, right? And we can talk about it, because that's what a lot of people want to hear about it. However, do I want to make people self-conscious? Do I want them to feel bad about their body? Absolutely not. Like, not even one bit, because it's got nothing to do with beauty. It's got nothing to do with attractiveness. And a lot of people want to hear about it. So let's talk about, like, the fat loss thing. How does keto and fat loss work?
Good question. Well, it's pretty much opposite. The ketogenic diet is pretty much opposite of what the previous food pyramid had recommended, right? You can almost reverse it completely, so that the highest amount of caloric intake is coming from healthy fats, extra virgin olive oil, seafood, fish, eggs with omega-3, olives, avocados, that kind of thing. It doesn't, so it's a very, very low carbohydrate diet. So again, reversing, rather than having grains on the bottom, it's almost no grains. If it's a ketogenic paleo, then you're not doing any grains at all.
Right.
Although paleo and keto, one of the things I love about them is that they're always evolving. They're very science-based, and they're not afraid to change something if new scientific information comes out. So there were recent discoveries about potential like bread from way back in the day, a little bit earlier than what we had thought. And so some people can handle a little bit more grains or white rice or white potatoes. Some people can't handle it. That's the bio-individuality. But for the most part, paleo folks try to stay fairly close to grain-free.
Right.
Both vegetarian, vegan, and paleo value the nutrients of vegetables. So I think they're all what people call vegetable-based diets, plant-based diets. I think paleo and keto are also plant-based.
Interesting. Not plant-full, but plant-based.
Yeah, that if you would look at the plates, that we have more in common with vegetarians and vegans than the standard American diet.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And yet, I mean, I get these looks from a lot of vegans. You know, I go to these workshops, whatever, personal growth, and you see a vegan, and they ask you what kind of restaurants do you have, and I say paleo, and they're like, ooh, oh my God, that's gotta be only meat. And I'm like, no. We actually had a customer the other day who came here and complained that there were too many vegetables on the menu, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's a good problem.
It's one of those myths about paleo that it's all meat-based.
It's not all meat-based, yeah. It's like, as you're saying, like most of the stuff on the plate is gonna be vegetables, and then the fats are gonna be like, it's not gonna look like it's a lot of fat because olive oil, you put a tablespoon of olive oil and it's basically it's gonna make what, 70% of the calories?
Right.
Because it's dense. And so I wanted to talk about how keto works, because a lot of people
weight loss.
Yeah, like how does it work? What's the mechanism for actually losing weight?
Ketosis is kind of the metabolic goal of eating a ketogenic diet. Ketosis is a metabolic state. It's the fuel pathway. It's how the body makes energy by using ketones, which are a breakdown product of fat, basically, produced in the liver from fatty acids. So you need to have fats to be in ketosis. You need to be eating fats, good healthy fats. And you need to be eating, usually to get into ketosis, you want to be eating around 20 grams, but definitely under 50 grams. Depends bio-individuality again, to get you into this state. So the body switches from burning glucose. Glucose is the energy, it's basically blood sugar.
20 to 50 grams of carbs, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Just carbs.
20 to 50 grams of carbs, that low of carbs, which means you need a lot more energy from fats, or you're going to have no energy. And you need proteins as well, because we need proteins for so many things, not just for muscles, but to produce brain neurotransmitters and all kinds of enzymes and all kinds of things to make our bodies function and be healthy.
Yeah.
So the problem is that with eating 8 servings of grains a day, or excessive amounts of breads and pastries and Pop-Tarts and bowls and oatmeal and all these things, they turn almost immediately in your body into sugar. You can only handle so much sugar at a time before your insulin shuttles it out of the bloodstream so you don't get poisoned from too much sugar, and it turns it, you can only store like 100 grams in the form of glycogen, the storage form of glucose, and insulin is also the fat storage hormone. So all that extra glucose will eventually be converted in the body to fat. And so that's how it's connected to the obesity epidemic, is eating so many grains and sugars. Because when you take fat out of foods, companies had to add more sugars to make things taste good, because fat naturally tastes good. So now people are gaining weight. When you take that out, the reverse happens. The body burns through the glycogen stores, and it releases water weight, releases extra, what are they called? Electrolytes.
Interesting.
Magnesium.
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, the electrolyte thing.
So that's why you need to drink a lot of water, because you're losing the water.
Should you also be replenishing your salts?
Absolutely. Things like bone broth or salts, extra salt in your food.
We have seen, and you have seen it, posts on Facebook from people who go keto and they have stomach issues. And I think you said, or somebody else said something about electrolyte deficiencies being part of it and having to replenish on salts. Was that you?
I'm not sure if it's about the stomach issues, but there's all kinds of symptoms, like what we call keto flu. When people are transitioning, they experience headaches, weakness, irritability, muscle cramping, heart palpitations, that's all electrolyte imbalance.
So it exactly is. You're exactly right. Like I used to have, like when I was training a lot, and I used to have a lot of heart palpitations and cramping and all that stuff, and that's just because, you know, I was training in the summer in Texas and
Sweating
out all the salt, not
electrolytes.
replenishing.
Yeah.
Even if you take extra salt, you just don't, like, you don't get it right. So it's one of the things to look at.
Mhm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Anyway, sorry I interrupted you. So yeah.
It's all right. So you switch your body. It stops burning glucose as the primary fuel for energy because
Yeah.
you're not overeating glucose, and your body just starts to use a different pathway, a different metabolic pathway in the same mitochondria that produces normal energy from glucose, and so you don't have all of the negative effects of the glucose. Weight gain is just one of those negative effects. There's all kinds of other damaging effects from excessive eating of glucose, and burning ketones for fuel is a much cleaner burning energy. So I often compare it to a hybrid car. Instead of using gasoline, which most people use, we're switching over to electricity. So ketones would be the electric clean burning fuel. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then you can basically, when you're keto, when you're ketosis, you can use your own fat for energy.
Right, you can. And that would be one reason actually to not use exogenous ketones. If you haven't heard of exogenous ketones, they're like ketone salts. Basically, they're like drinking. People say, drink your ketones.
Oh, is
And
it the
so
powder
it's
thing?
not your,
the
your
Keto
blood.
OS?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about that because I tried it. I would love to hear your opinion on this.
Sure. I don't use exogenous ketones. I've never used exogenous ketones, and I've consulted with numerous other nutritionists and experts in the ketogenic diet, and they don't use or recommend exogenous ketones. For the general population, particularly for weight loss, they may be beneficial for people who need extra ketone support for a particular health condition like cancer or like Alzheimer's, where they need the support of ketones. But if you're trying to lose weight, you want your body to burn its own fat to make those ketones. You don't want it to be using exogenous ketones because the body has like an order of operations. Like if you're into math, there's an order of operations, you know. So basically when the body uses up alcohol is one of the first things. So its energy is going to be used to clear away alcohol before it burns your own fat. It's then, second thing is going to burn away exogenous ketones. Then it's going to burn through proteins, and then it's going to burn through carbohydrates, and then you get to your own body fats to burn. So if you're using all those extra things first, you might not get to the weight loss goal.
I am so glad we're talking about it because I had a good friend who was selling the Keto OS, and he's watching, he's so gonna hate me right now, so I'm not gonna name any names, right? And I was like, ooh, that's cool. I can just eat ketones instead of waiting to be in ketosis. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
But I honestly didn't feel good.
Yeah.
I had it just didn't feel right in my stomach when I was eating that stuff. It was weird. It's like, well, put it in your coffee or whatever, and it just.
It didn't do it for you.
Yeah, it didn't do it for me. I didn't stick to it. Plus, it was expensive. It was like $5 a little packet. I'm like, I just, buy Whole Foods and whatever with that money.
With every new health discovery that is truly helpful, like paleo movement, primal movement, keto, that's really based in eating natural, healthy foods the way that we used to back in the day when we were cave people. Then the market gets a hold of it, the capitalist market, which is wonderful. And
it is wonderful.
And
for the most part,
it can create a lot of challenges for people too, because they're going to get their hands on it and call it whatever.
Yeah, and that's exactly like here. And I can't even believe I fell for it, right? Because this is like what we talk about all the time. Like whenever we think we can outsmart nature, right? Like, should I eat what comes out of a factory, or should I eat what comes from nature?
Right, and wanting the faster, easier way. That's what modern society, everything, cars that you mentioned, of everything to make it quicker and faster. And
But nothing.
But paleo keto, a true paleo keto lifestyle is not about faster and more and bigger and better. It's about relaxing into life and self-care. And you know, cavemen weren't always out, they weren't like constantly out slaying animals to eat. They had a lot of time relaxing, just sitting around the fire and enjoying themselves. A lot more relaxing. They went to bed early, they woke up with the sun, they got lots of exercise and time in nature. And
they were happy.
Yeah, all these things.
They were happy.
Yes.
They didn't have depression and anxiety.
I don't know what the cavemen's happiness was about, actually. I don't know that for sure, but they certainly had a lot more relaxation. But if you go and visit the modern day hunter-gatherers, are they happy? Those tribes, New Guinea or wherever, like they might be just happy and satisfied. I mean, we've lost a lot of that.
Unless they get
fast-paced life.
unless they
Yeah,
get
they're not happy if they're getting eaten or if they're infected or whatever.
There's that.
Yeah, we talked
There's
about
that, but
that. Mortality rates. Yeah.
So let's talk about something you talked about was you wanted to talk about was self-care and keto, and I wanted to hear about that because I have no idea where this is going to go. Self-care and keto.
Yeah, so self-care and keto. So keto and paleo for me they're not diets. They're not about restricting food. They might result in all kinds of beneficial health things like mood, clear thinking, energy. Weight loss might be a part of that as your body starts functioning optimally. But it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of living.
Way of treating yourself.
A way of treating yourself, nourishing yourself with food that you know is supporting your body and your mind. It's a lifestyle that involves slowing down, making connections with people and friends. Not necessarily just being on Facebook, which I'm on Facebook as much as the next person, but it can be a time suck and a time waste, and the EMFs and the Blu-ray lights disrupts our sleep schedules.
What's EMF?
Electromagnetic fields that come
Gotcha,
from
from
cell
computer.
phones or your laptop, your computer, and the bright lights that is really hurting the mitochondria in the eyes, and is supposedly related to an epidemic now of macular degeneration and eye problems, but also related to sleep disturbance because it impacts your melatonin, which is the hormone neurotransmitter basically that helps us sleep at night. And that will throw everything out of whack, and then that contributes to people who do have a goal of weight loss, prevents them from losing weight because everything's out of whack, and then they've got cortisol to boost up their cortisol, which impacts insulin, and which is the fat storage hormone, so it's all connected in these pathways. So getting
Very
good
true.
sleep, staying off of technology late at night, so usually it's helpful to be off by 8 or 9 p.m. at least an hour, 2 hours if you can do it, to be off of all technology, to give your own melatonin a chance to be produced, which helps you fall asleep.
I'm definitely not there with that. I wonder how many people who are watching are like, yeah, I shut off my phone 2 hours before sleep.
It's hard. It's really hard, and I'm not there perfectly with it yet, but I have. I'm to bed much earlier than I used to be, and getting up with the sun. That's going to reset your circadian rhythms. Getting up with the daylight.
It doesn't work when
And
you're
going
in a
to bed.
new relationship.
No, not at all.
Not working out for me these days, but
That's good. You have to enjoy those yummy times of life as well. But for a regular pattern, then that's what you want to strive for, is good circadian rhythms.
Yeah. You know, I wanted to get completely off topic for a second because I wanted to share with you something that happened this week. And wondering what to think. So I went to a dentist, right? And I avoid dentists like a plague because I'm scared of them, but whatever. I go to a dentist and they do the x-ray, and then they tell me my wisdom teeth have to come out. And I'm just like going with the ancestral thing, like, you know, I was going there kind of already like, I don't want them to scare me into thinking something is wrong because I know my health is really good, right? So I had like a little bit of an attitude about it already, you know, I just want to do the teeth cleaning and whatever, just get out of there. And, you know, the x-rays came with a Groupon, whatever, so I'm like, I'm just going to do it. But I was like, they're telling me my wisdom teeth have to come out, and I'm like, I really don't like it. So I started researching, I started asking people in the paleo community and some people from the Ancestral Health Symposium, and they told me, okay, hey, go research this guy and just listen to what he has to say about it. And I was thinking, like, how is this possible that, you know, the wisdom teeth doesn't grow right? Like, how is this possible that it just so many people have to have them taken out? And what I learned is so interesting is that we eat paleo-like diet, meaning all the food that we eat is so easy to chew. Like for example, like you want a leather coat, you can just buy it, right? Like the cavemen had to do a whole lot of chewing before they got the leather coat, and everything was really hard to chew and hard to eat. Like they were doing a whole lot of chewing on everything, while I'm drinking my blueberry smoothie, right? And there's an impact to our facial structure as a result. And he was this, I think his name is Mike Dew, and he was saying like, basically we've gone from like this to like this. And that, and like our facial profile has changed, like even like during our lifetime, by us being lazy and not chewing or eating our smoothies and eating food that is really easy to eat, like our facial structure changes and it like changes shape like that, and then there's not enough room for the wisdom teeth. So I was like, how interesting.
Yeah.
How interesting.
That's interesting that it's about the chewing, and I've seen some other stuff. Potter, I think his name, Pottinger, Weston A. Price and Pottinger. One of them was Weston A. Price a dentist as well?
Weston A. Price was So he was saying it's vitamin A and E deficiency.
Right, and that so our whole jaw structure was changed as a result of that.
So this guy is arguing this and saying he was looking at the studies of the countries who do have vitamin A, E deficiency and those who don't, and compare the wisdom teeth problems, and it didn't match.
Interesting.
So his thing was like, yeah, you need vitamins, but more, you also need to be eating food that is hard to eat.
Well, and it's important for other reasons, just for digestive health. To as soon as we smell the food, our digestion starts. But chewing also signals your body for what types of enzymes, digestive enzymes, to make. And if you're just swallowing liquids or whatever, you're not producing those digestive enzymes to really break down all the foods to the form that we need to be absorbed into our bodies. The body to use. So it's all, everything is always connected.
It's all always connected, and I love talking about these things. Or like one year I was at the Ancestral Health Thing Symposium, and they were talking about vision. And how is it that everybody has to wear glasses? Like the Protoman, the paleo people didn't have to wear glasses, right? And it's like all the impact of us staring at things on our phones and all of that from childhood reading and all of that. And it's so interesting.
It is. It's all fascinating.
Modern life disease. But anyway, back to keto.
We're all over the place tonight.
We're all over the place today, but hopefully...
This is what happens when you come to a paleo potluck club meeting or a meetup, because we just get there and we just all start talking about all these fascinating things, and we're all passionate about it.
Yeah, you should go. Are you still doing potlucks?
I am. I'm going to be scheduling one soon.
Okay, would you schedule underneath the video so that people can show up to your potluck?
Yeah, people have a link. You can ask to be invited to the group, and we have local... occasionally, we haven't been doing them as often, but we'll have potlucks at people's houses, mainly in the Boulder area, sometimes down in Golden or other places, and
you get to meet
sometimes we go to restaurants like Blue Beats.
You get to meet all the other paleo freaks.
Yes.
Do not be alone. You have a community of people here. If you get a blooming bee, but it's kind of weird to talk to tables next to you. People do it all the time. You can be weird. You're welcome to be weird here, but you could also meet paleo people at Mary Kay's potlucks. Okay, so back to keto. Keto and cancer is what we have not talked about.
We haven't talked about it, and we're running out of time. But
what's next to the end there?
Let's talk about this. So Keto for Cancer, I brought a book. I don't know if you can read if it's backwards or not in here, but Keto for Cancer by Miriam Kalamian. She went back to school to become a nutritionist specializing in this after her young son, I think he was 4 years old when he was diagnosed with an inoperable, incurable brain tumor, cancer.
Wow.
So that was, at that time, nobody was really doing this keto, and she finally they were saying there's nothing that could be done for her son, which is devastating to have your 4-year-old child and not be able to do anything for him. But she came across Thomas Seyfried's work, I believe, and his studies using the ketogenic diet, and she implemented it with him, and basically it worked when nothing else, none of the other conventional treatments were working to delay and slow down the cancer. So he lived for another 6 years when they thought he was going to die immediately. So they were grateful for that extra time. So she has this book on keto for cancer, and there's great information there for it. At this point in the United States, it's basically supplemental to conventional cancer, but it's proving and showing to be really helpful, again, for slowing tumor growth. It supports apoptosis, which is natural cellular death, so that the cancer cells die instead of proliferating. It's really helpful for all kinds of things related to cancer. So, and that might be one time when exogenous ketones might be helpful.
Yeah, and just to dumb it down for people, the way it works is some tumors, cancer cells, cannot survive without sugar, while regular cells can. So you kill them off, you quit sugar, you kill them off, your regular
cells can
survive.
use the ketones for energy.
Yeah.
But the cancer cells, particular types of tumor-based cancers, it doesn't work for every type of cancer cell at this point. So, but a lot of tumor-based cancers like breast cancer respond.
So hope I don't get sued by somebody saying,
cancer.
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness.
We are not, neither one of us are medical doctors. We don't diagnose.
We're not saying
we don't
do
treat,
chemo.
we don't claim to do any of that. You need to be working with your doctor if you have a health condition like cancer or diabetes and you're wanting to lower your insulin and save money that way. Ketos work to help a lot of people with that, but you need to be talking with your doctor about it. And anytime you start any kind of new diet, you should be talking to your doctor.
Yeah, and do keto.
Yeah, and
do keto too, and look into everything else, right?
Because doctors are not experts in nutrition and diet. They barely get any training around that.
And then there's the mind-body relationship. I really want to talk to somebody about that on the Facebook Lives here. By the way, it's called Blooming Life Live.
Blooming Live.
That's what we're doing right now. Blooming Life Live.
But well, if you're on here now, you know what it is. You're here watching it.
Yeah.
You liked it. You signed up.
If you know of somebody who is very effective at helping people treat their disease through mind and mind control and things like that, and meditation and stuff, I would love to have a conversation about that because it's just such a powerful avenue. So,
have you done any live streams on fasting?
Fasting? No.
We should schedule for that. How fasting works with keto, and do you have to fast when you're on keto?
Intermittent fasting. Let's talk about it next time. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I hope it's been helpful. Although we have been all over the place.
Yes, we have.
We talked about wisdom teeth. We talked about
periods.
We talked about everything. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Next week, I have no idea what we're talking about, but we're going to be talking about something interesting.
And I also just want to say that I'm offering a free presentation to the community at Boulder Healing Hub next Thursday, August 23rd, all about paleo, keto, gluten-free, to get your questions answered.
But hang on, I want to hear about the 8-week program you're doing, because I think that's really interesting and exciting. So when does it start? Do you have a date yet?
I have it, end of September.
End of September, so we don't have a date
October
yet.
1st week at the latest.
Do you have a price point or anything like that? What's it going to
Well,
cost?
there's 3 different levels depending on what works for you. If you want to do it yourself program, there's that. It's
Don't do it yourself, join a group.
It's going to be $289 and then up from there, and depending on how much one-on-one coaching you want, how much group support you want. There's going to be lifelong materials, referral resources, testing, evaluations. It's like packed full and whole healthy life makeover for women.
Oh, that's really powerful, and I know it's going to be reasonably priced. Here's the thing: it's so important when you're trying to change your life to have a group support and have everything that comes with it. Hard doing anything but on your own, because you're going to fall back into your old negative patterns. It's really nice to have a group that supports you, especially if you're having a hard time sticking to keto and go to bed 2 hours before, turning off your lights 2 hours before. But
you'll have all those assignments in this
really
program. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So it's
steps for you to take. There's so many things that you can choose from, but we can't work on them all at the same time.
Yeah.
So you'll have the program to keep for life.
So it's going to be
But you'll also
lifestyle
get
and nutrition.
Lifestyle and nutrition, big time.
Ooh,
Yep.
I
It's
like
gonna be
it.
great. Whole lifestyle health
I
makeover.
like it. Will you send me information about it?
I will
too?
send information, and you can
I
find
will.
out more at the free presentation on August 23rd if you want to be there.
And I'm sure we'll have you back before then. We'll talk about
Awesome.
intermittent
Sounds
fasting. We will remind you before this starts, so you
Okay.
can join her group.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll try to answer them.
All right, we get around. But nice talking to you. Nice seeing you, Emily, Mary Beth, and
Bye.
everybody else who watches the replay. See you next Monday.